The history of Paul Morphy and his contributions to chess. Paul Morphy was a chess player who is considered as one of the most outstanding chess players in history. He played his first game when he was just 6 years old and became an international master at the age of 20. Morphy is known for his attacking style, which he used to defeat all of his opponents with ease. He also invented a new way to move the pieces called the Morphy Defence. Early life and education. Morphy was born in New Orleans to a wealthy and distinguished family. His father, Alonzo Michael Morphy, a lawyer, served as a Louisiana state legislator, attorney general, and a Louisiana state Supreme Court justice. Alonzo, who held Spanish nationality, was of Spanish, Portuguese, and Irish ancestry. Morphy's mother, Louise Therese Félicité Thelside Le Carpentier, was the musically talented daughter of a prominent French Creole family. Morphy grew up in an atmosphere of genteel civility and culture where chess and music were the typical highlights of a Sunday home gathering. According to his uncle, Ernest Morphy, no one formally taught Morphy how to play chess. Rather, Morphy learned on his own as a young child simply from watching others play. After silently watching a lengthy game between Ernest and Alonzo, which they abandoned as drawn, young Paul surprised them by stating that Ernest should have won. His father and uncle had not realized that Paul knew the moves, let alone any chess strategy. They were even more surprised when Paul proved his claim by resetting the pieces and demonstrating the win his uncle had missed. Chess career. Paul Morphy's chess career was very short, but he was the first American world champion. At the age of 15, Morphy traveled to Europe and won both his first international tournament in Paris and his first international match against Adolf Anderssen in London. Still only 21 years old, Morphy was now quite famous. While in Paris, he was sitting in his hotel room one evening, chatting with his companion Frederick Edge, when they had an unexpected visitor. "I am Prince Galitzine. I wish to see Mr. Morphy," the visitor said. According to Edge, Morphy identified himself to the visitor. "No, it is not possible," the prince exclaimed, "you are too young." Prince Galitzine then explained that he was in the frontiers of Siberia when he had first heard of Morphy's wonderful deeds. He explained, "One of my suite had a copy of the chess paper published in Berlin, the Schachzeitung, and ever since that time I have been wanting to see you." He then told Morphy that he must go to St. Petersburg, Russia, because the chess club in the Imperial Palace would receive him with enthusiasm. In Europe, Morphy was generally hailed as world chess champion. In Paris, at a banquet held in his honor on April 4, 1859, a laurel wreath was placed over the head of a bust of Morphy, carved by the sculptor Eugene Louis Lexon. Morphy was declared by the Assembly the best chess player that ever lived. At a similar gathering in London, where he returned in the spring of 1859, Morphy was again proclaimed the champion of the world. He was also invited to a private audience with Queen Victoria. So dominant was Morphy that even masters could not seriously challenge him in play without some kind of handicap. At a simultaneous match against 5 masters, Morphy won 2 games against Jules Ernest de Rivière and Henry Edward Bird, drew 2 games with Samuel Bowden and Johann Jacob Lowenthal, and lost 1 to Thomas Wilson Barnes. Upon his return to America, the accolades continued as Morphy toured the major cities on his way home. At the University of the City of New York, on May 29, 1859, John Van Buren, son of President Martin Van Buren, ended a testimonial presentation by proclaiming Paul Morphy, chess champion of the world. In Boston, at a banquet attended by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, Louis Agassiz, Boston Mayor Frederick W. Lincoln Jr., and Harvard President James Walker, Dr. Oliver Wendell Holmes toasted Paul Morphy, the world chess champion. Morphy's celebrity drew manufacturers who sought his endorsements, newspapers asked him to write chess columns, and a baseball club was named after him. Morphy is chiefly remembered as a leading exponent of the Romantic school of chess, which focused on e4 openings and dashing tactical and offensive play where opponents were often checkmated in under 30 moves. Morphy favored the usual chess openings of the day, particularly the King's Gambit and Giuoco Piano, when playing as white, and the Dutch defense, when playing as black. The Morphy Defence of the Roy Lopez is named after him and remains the most popular variant of that opening, although he seldom used the Roy Lopez when playing the white pieces. Morphy could play positional chess when required to do so, however, he was not enamored of it, and his closed games, while competently played, exhibit none of the imagination of his open games. He was openly critical of the Sicilian defense and d4 openings for leading to dull games, and the only known instance where he used a Sicilian defense was a game against Lowenthal in 1858. During his tour of Europe, he included a stipulation that all matches must feature e4-e5 openings in at least half the games. Morphy can be considered the first modern player. Some of his games do not look modern because he did not need the sort of slow positional systems that modern grandmasters use, or that Staunton, Paulsen, and later Wilhelm Steinitz developed. His opponents had not yet mastered the open game, so he regularly played it against them. He preferred open positions because they brought quick success. He played open games almost to perfection but could handle any sort of position, having a complete grasp of chess years ahead of his time. Morphy was a player who intuitively knew what was best, and in this regard he has been likened to José Capablanca, who was also a child prodigy. Morphy played quickly. In an era before time control was used, he often took less than an hour to make all of his moves, while his opponents would need perhaps 8 hours or more. Lowenthal and Anderson both later remarked that he was very hard to beat, since he knew how to defend well and would draw or even win games despite getting into bad positions. At the same time, he was deadly when given a promising position. Anderson especially commented on this, saying that, after one bad move against Morphy, one might as well resign. I win my games in 70 moves but Mr. Morphy wins his in 20, but that is only natural, Anderson said, explaining his poor results against Morphy. Of Morphy's 59 serious games, those played in matches in the 1857 New York tournament, he won 42, drew 9, and lost 8. Later years and death. On the afternoon of July 10, 1884, Morphy was found dead in his bathtub in New Orleans at the age of 47. According to the autopsy, Morphy had suffered a stroke brought on by entering cold water after a long walk in the midday heat. A lifelong Catholic, Paul Morphy was buried in the family tomb in St. Louis Cemetery, New Orleans, Louisiana. The Morphy Mansion, sold by the family in 1891, later became the site of the restaurant Brennan's. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more.